Hey guys, it's Miss B. I am so sorry I'm getting this to you so late. It has been a crazy day, but let's get into it with two-step equations, and I'm going to teach you a little bit how to solve these problems and get your mind at ease. Let's go ahead and get started. If you are anything like me, the very first time I ever saw a problem like this, you probably were something like this. What? Because you're so used to solving one-step equations, which we spent a lot of time on, and now all of a sudden there's another variable going on in this problem. Like, why'd you gotta go make things so complicated, right? So what I'm going to teach you today is going to be simple ways how to break down solving problems like this to relieve you of some anxiety and to give you some freedom and excitement in solving problems like this instead of being overwhelmed by them. So the first problem on your worksheet, which you should be following along at home if you don't have it already, is number 1, where it says 6 equals a over 4 plus 2. What you have to know for these ones is that if I came over and I covered up this 2, okay, I can't actually cover it, but just pretend I'm covering it. So that only you saw 6 equals a over 4, right? Just in this area here. That's a one-step equation, okay? But what this guy did, this plus 2, is he came in and he broke up the game. And now you need to combine like terms because this plus 2 is getting in the way of you being able to solve a one-step equation. So he has to come first, which means we've got to get rid of him, as mean as that sounds. So what we got to do is we're going to combine like terms by doing the inverse, very similar to how we did the steps for solving one-step equations, okay? So we're going to remove the 2 on this side because we see it's being added, right? We're going to take that out. We're going to subtract 2 from the 6 here. 6 minus 2 is going to give us 4. And then I'm going to rewrite my problem right here where it says a over 4. Okay, so now I'm left with 4 equals a over 4. Now it's a one-step equation that we can work with, right? So we have 4 equals a over 4. I know that whenever the variable of a problem I'm working on is in the numerator, I know it's being divided by whatever number is in the denominator. So I'm going to do the inverse of this operation of division by multiplying. So I'm going to multiply 4 to this side to cross cancel that, and I'm going to multiply 4 to that side. And once I do that, because I just got the a all by itself, I'm going to multiply 4 by 4 and get 16 equals a. And just like I said for the one-step equations, we have to do this again for the two-step equations, right? And we have to check our work. So if I check my work like I'm supposed to for every single problem, my first step is always going to rewrite the original equation. So I'm going to literally rewrite 6 equals a over 4 plus 2. My second step is then going to be that I have to take whatever number that I thought my answer was, hint, hint, it's 16, right? And I'm going to plug it in for wherever I see the letter A in my equation, right? So I only see A once here, so I'm going to do 6 equals, here's the A, I'm going to plug in 16 instead, right? 16 over 4 plus 2. And now we solve to see if it's true. That also kind of rhymed, but so we have 16 divided by 4, which equals 4. And if I have 4 plus 2, I know that's going to equal 6. Does 6 equal 6? The 6 over here has stayed the same. This 6 over here. So if 6 equals 6, then your answer is going to be correct. So let's move on to the next one. So for number 2, I want you to try this one by yourself at home. Go ahead and pause the video and then hit play when you're ready to check your answer to see how I got this problem. Hi, if you're ready to check your answer, let's get started. So we have -6 plus x over 4 equals -5. If you notice, it's a similar pattern to the problem that we just did for number 1. However, this time there's negative numbers involved, which means we need to tell ourselves to slow down because when we're working with rational numbers that are negative, sometimes we can psych ourselves out and get a little discouraged. But what I want to encourage you with is that we've been spending a really long time with positive and negative numbers, and we know how to work with them. I would not have let us move on unless we did. So with that in mind, knowing that we have mastered this concept already, let's walk forward with some confidence as we go in this problem, okay? So, just like I said before, we have to try to get whatever number it is out of the way so that we can solve our one-step equation. So in this case, it's -6 because it is on the left side near the x over 4, and it is on the opposite side of the equal sign. So I'm going to actually do the inverse of this number, which is +6. And the reason why this is so important for you guys to remember, guys, is because if you choose the wrong side or the wrong sign, it could mess up your entire problem. So take your time. Make sure you're asking yourself a bunch of questions as you're doing the problems, and spend your time doing it, okay? So we're adding to it. We're taking -6 and we're adding 6 to it to cross cancel it. And then we have to do it to this side too. We're going to add 6 over here. But I know that I have -5 plus 6 over here. Now when we're adding negative numbers, remember that it's always the sign, you always have the sign of the bigger number when you're adding and subtracting, okay? In this case, the number 6 is bigger and it's a positive number. And over here we have a -5, which is smaller and a negative number. So in other words, what we're actually kind of seeing here is 6 minus 5, which is going to give us the answer of 1. Okay, so that's how we end up getting that answer. And I'm going to actually just rewrite what I left over here, which is x over 4 equals 1. Okay, so now that we have it down to our one-step equation, we need to go ahead and solve by doing the inverse to both sides to get x by itself. So in order to get x by itself, we know this is being divided, so we have to multiply to both sides. And when we multiply to both sides, we have x equals 1 times 4, which is actually just x equals 4. Again, you guys should already know how to check your work. If not, go back and check my YouTube for the one-step equations video, how to check your work, and hopefully you'll be able to remember how to do it then. But hopefully that one was helpful for you guys. Let's go ahead and try the third problem. Okay, let's go ahead and try out number 3. So we see 9x minus 7 equals -7. So we know that we have to get this guy away from the x. Because if we know where the x is, you guys, we know which number is the outsider. We know which number we have to do the inverse to so that we can get it back to our one-step equation, okay? So I'm going to add 7 over here. I'm going to add 7 over there. And this cross cancels, but also, so does this. -7 plus 7 is going to give me the answer of 0, right? And then I have 9x equals 0. Well, you guys should already know that anything times 0 equals 0. So even if I divide 9 over here and divide 0 by 9, my x is still going to equal 0. And that is the answer that I got for this problem for number 3. So x does equal 0.